Well, hello again, everyone. Today we're going to look at the concept of the ordered set. If you look at the screen here, we have a little motive. This is the main motive from several bits of the show Into the Woods. Let's play that. If you know the show, this motive is very prominent. Sondheim uses it to develop a lot of ideas. I like this motive. It's a good motive. We're going to talk about ordered sets, ordered segments. And what we simply mean by ordered is that we're not taking the shortest possible path. Instead, we are going whatever direction works best for us. So in this case, the distance between the D and the G, we have descended 7 half steps. Between the G and the A, we went up 2 half steps. Between the A and the F sharp, we went down 3 half steps. And then between the F and the E, F sharp and the E, we went down 2 half steps. So this is the ordering. Down 7, up 2, down 3, down 2 to create the motive. When you transpose, and we'll call this the prime form of the segment here. I know prime form has meant a couple different things. We'll say this is P, because we start on D, we'll say P2. So when we transpose, we're simply taking this form of it and moving it a certain amount. So if I wanted to say P6, that means I'm going to start on what pitch? Yeah, F sharp. So if we start on F sharp, of course, finale adjusts the measures as we go along here, so we'll constantly be reevaluating things here. The idea is that we cover the same distance just at a different starting point. When you transpose, that's what you do. You're simply moving everything the same amount just from a different starting point. So in this case, we can add 4 to everything, add 4 to 2 to get 6, but we can do this by intervals too, and that's what we want to do here. So we want to go down 7 from F sharp. And what would that be? Well, as luck would have it, it's B. What about up 2 from B? That would be C sharp. Down 3 from C sharp would be A sharp. And then down 2 from A sharp would be G sharp. So let me adjust this so you can see everything is. So we say that the P2 form of the row starts on D and has this set up. The P6 form of the row would start on F sharp and be set up like this. But it's using the same intervals, the same structure. Any P would have that. That's, I think, a very intuitive concept. Any prime form of the row, in this case a 5-note row or a 5-note segment, is going to have the same intervallic content, just transposed to a different starting pitch. So if we did, say, P9, we're going to have P9 here, and then we're going to operate under the same principle. So what is 9? Well, 9 is A. We start with A. Let's go down 7 half steps. That takes us to D. Up 2 would be E. Down step and a half would be C sharp. Down 2 from there would be B. So one of the operations you can perform is transposition. And that's all we've been doing here. We've been transposing this idea. What if we wanted to do an inversion? What happens in an inversion? Well, historically, you change the direction, change the contour. So let's say I wanted to do not sure why I added a measure there, the I 0 form, I2 form of the row, which means we're still starting on D, but instead of doing this setup, we're going to want to change the direction of everything. So what was a -7 becomes a +7. What was a +2 becomes a -2. What was -3 becomes +3, and what was -2 becomes +2. So let's start on D. We'll start on the low D, so we have some room to work with here. Up 7 half steps from D yields what? That's right, A. Down a whole step from A, 2 half steps yields what? G. Up a step and a half, 3 half steps from G is B flat. And then up a whole step from there is C. So when all is said and done, we end up with this intervallic structure. The I form of the row is the P form with the intervals directions flipped. And that would apply to no matter where we started. So now we have the I form of the row. We'll take a look at this. Let's do, say, an I9. So with I9, what's our starting pitch going to be? A, because 9 is A. And using this setup, this intervallic structure now, and it's the inverse of the P form, so minuses or pluses. So up 7 from A is E. Down a whole step, 2 half steps from E is D. Up a minor third is F. And a whole step from there is G. And let's do one more of these. How about I 5. So let's do I6. So what is 6? F sharp. We want to go up 7 half steps from F sharp. Give that a courtesy accidental so we can confirm that. Up 6 half steps from F sharp is, of course, C sharp. Down a whole step from C sharp, 2 half steps is B. Up a step and a half would be 3. And then up a whole step from there is E. Let's listen to each of these. P2, P6, P9, I2, inversion starting on D, I9, and I6. Now let's talk running these things backwards, because the manipulations you can do on any ordered set is you can transpose it, you can invert it, you can run it backwards, then you can run the inversion backwards. When you run a P form backwards, you get what's called the retrograde. That's a nice word. The retrograde, which is abbreviated, not surprisingly, R. But you identify the R form by its last pitch. So if we wanted to do R2, we wouldn't start on D. We'd have to come up with what ends on D. Well, to get an R form, you just run the corresponding P form backwards. So in this case, P2 would look like this. And we'll normalize the note values so it keeps the same rhythm as the as a P form, just the note values are reversed. So we start with E, and then F sharp, A, G, D. Those are the note values backward. Let's figure out what's going on here in terms of our intervals between each one. So to get from E to F, what did I have to do? I went up 2, and then to get from F sharp to A, I went up 3. To get from A to G, I went down 2. And to get from G to D, I went up 7. Now this is where it gets interesting. The R2 form has an AIS of 2, up 3, down 2, up 7. That's the reverse of the AISs we saw in the I form. That's interesting. We'll explore that in greater detail in class. Let's do one more of these. Say an R6. Well, just run the P6 form backwards. So let's look at P6. Just run it backwards. So G sharp, A sharp, C sharp, B natural, and F sharp. And as you can see, it keeps the same AIS as what we've seen in other places. I'll copy that there. And then what can't be a great surprise, the R9 form would just be the P9 form backwards, so that's B, C sharp, E, D, A. And of course, it lines up as well. Now what if we run the inversion backwards? Oh, this is nice. Call this one a retrograde inversion, or for short, RI. So RI6, or let's go start with RI2, just simply means you take I2 and run it backwards. So the first pitch of I2 is C, then B flat, then G, then A, and then D. Let's look at its AIS. To get from C to B, I went down 2. Then from B flat to G, I went down 3. To get from G to A, I went up 2. Then from A to D, I went down 7. You notice that AIS is the reverse of the P form AIS. And we'll use this when we're chasing down different versions of it so we can identify things more quickly. RI9, for example, would be the reverse of the I9, so G, F, D, E, A. And RI6 would be the reverse of I6, so E, D, B, C sharp, F sharp. And you'll notice that in all of these cases, they keep the same AIS, because what we're doing is we're transposing the different forms of the row. So we have P forms, I forms, R forms, and RI forms. Let's listen to all of them. So we'll start with P2, then P6, then P9, then we'll go into the I forms. I2, I9, I6, R2, R6, R9, and RI2, RI9, and RI6. Now for the R forms. RIs. So this is our introduction. The 4 different types of operations: transposition, inversion, retrograde, and retrograde inversion. And you apply transposition to basically all of them. And that's how you create different forms of your set, your row, your segment, whatever you want to call it. Eventually, we will see this applied to all 12 tones. And when that happens, then we start talking about a variety of different things. But this is a good introduction, I think. So we'll start from here, and we'll go forward in class next week and drill down a little more and see some of the other interesting mathematical things that start to happen when you frame these in terms of numbers and ordered intervals. That's all for now. Thanks as always for watching, and have a great day.